Okay. So we'll start with some certain in money. And this is now found in Section 2 of the Negotiable Instruments Law. We're still in the essential requisites of negotiable instruments. So the first one is that it is necessary that it must be in writing and signed by the maker or drawer. Second requirement, must contain an unconditional promise or order to pay a sum certain in money. So we're here in that aspect. Paragraph B of Section 1, where the promise or order must be to pay a sum certain in money. And under Section 2, what is sum certain in money? You have to take note that in this situation, the amount to be payable, the sum payable, must not only be fixed, it must not only be certain, it must not only be definite, it must also expressed in the form of money. So take for example, you made a promise to pay, a promissory note. I promise to pay Pinky or order 10,000 pesos in 10 cases of Fundador Brandy. Okay? So you have stated there 10,000 pesos. That is an amount that is certain, correct? However, it was not expressed in the form of money. Why? Because you said 10,000 pesos in the form of Fundador Brandy. That's the reason why, in that case, the instrument is said to be non-negotiable because the amount is not considered some certain in money. Okay? Also, the need to stress that the amount must be fixed, it must be definite. So in this particular situation, a promissory note again, I promise to pay Rochelle or order 100,000 pesos together with all the sums that may be due to her on July 16, 2021. Signed, the maker. So in that situation, I promise to pay Rochelle or order 100,000. If you'll stop there, there is no question. It is some certain in money. It's a negotiable instrument. But when I added this phrase, together with all the sums that may be due to her on July 16, 2021. Okay? So magkano yon? The additional amount that will be due to her on July 16, 2001, that is unknown to me. That is not certain. That is not definite. That is not fixed. That's the reason why the instrument is considered non-negotiable. And what's the reason why is it considered non-negotiable? Because it is not some certain in money. It is not certain. It is not definite. It is not fixed. So, that being the preliminaries, let's now consider the provision of Section 2 of the Negotiable Instruments Law. What constitutes certainty as to sum? Section 2 provides that the amount payable is sum certain within the meaning of this act, although it is to be paid with installments, with interest, I should say, by stated installments with acceleration clause. The fourth one would be with exchange, whether at a fixed rate or current rate. And then the fourth one would be with cost or collection or attorney's fees if the instrument will not be paid on maturity. So we'll now have a detailed discussion on that. So some certain in money, the amount must be some certain. It must be fixed. It must be definite. Okay? And just like what we have said a while ago, the amount must have already been identified with exact certainty. If it is with interest, then the amount of the interest, the amount to be added, should have already been identified with exact certainty. If there is an agreement as to the payment of damages, then how much will be the damages that will be added? It has to be indicated with exact certainty so that it will be considered to be certain, so that it will be considered to be fixed. Okay? So in this example, I promise to pay Rochelle or order together with all the sums that may be due to her on July 16, 2000. That is non-negotiable because the amount is not some certain. It is not yet fixed. Okay? So it's still uncertain how much really is to be collected because you do not know how much will be given to her on that specified time. Okay? So that should be July 16 of 2022. Okay? In money, okay? It should always be expressed in the form of money. In money, so in the form of legal tender or any other currencies, not necessarily our Philippine peso. So pwedeng yung amount na yan, hindi lang siya 100,000. It could be 100,000 pesos. It could also be 100 yung 100,000 na yan. So it's not only limited to Philippine currency. Okay, so just like in this situation, I promise to pay Pinker order 10,000 in Carabao. Well, 10,000, that is certain. However, it was not expressed in the form of money. Rather, it's expressed in the form of an animal. Okay, so that is not yet considered to be negotiable. It is, though certain, the amount is certain, it was not, however, expressed in the form of money. Okay, so going on further, under Section 2, sabi niya, the amount to be paid is still considered some certain, even if it is to be paid with interest. Okay? So even if the sum payable is to be paid with interest, the amount due can be computed easily. Bakit? As long as you know how to compute the interest, di ba? Interest equals principal, rate, and then the time. So take for example the following. I promise to pay May or order 100,000 with interest at 8% per annum, provided, however, that when paid after maturity, the interest shall now be 10%. Okay lang yan. I promise to pay May or order 100,000 with interest of 8% per annum. So, paano ko malalaman yung additional amount? All I have to do is to compute the interest. So, principal, 100,000 times 8% times 1. Okay? Per annum pala, times 12. Okay. So, that will now be considered as the yung tawag doon, the interest that will be paid. Okay? Interest equals the principal and then the rate times the time. So, diyan, kung ilang months yan, kung halimbawa 4, edi 4 over 12, yun ang time mo. Gets mo? So, provided, however, that if when paid after maturity, the interest shall now become 10%. Wala nang problema diyan because we are now referring after maturity. So, still, it is easy to compute the additional interest because, sabi nga natin, 10% IPRT. Ganun lang yan. Okay? So, in this situation, this instrument is negotiable because the additional amount to be paid in the form of an interest can still be easily computed. But how about if the situation is like this? I promise to pay Anton or order 1,000 pesos with interest. If you notice, there is no more rate of interest provided. If the rate of interest was not provided, is it still possible for me to compute the additional amount that will be paid on the due date? The answer is yes. Why? Because if the interest rate is silent, the rate of interest is silent, I can still compute the additional interest. And what will be the rate to use? I will be using the legal rate of interest. And by virtue of this BSP Circular Number 799, Series of 2013, dated July 1 to 2013, the legal rate now of interest for loan, forbearance, or for the use of money is now 6% per annum. Okay? So, originally, it's 12% per annum. But starting July 1, 2013, as long as the parties have not agreed on an interest which is not iniquitous and consumable contra bonus mores, then the rate of interest that will be used, okay, assuming that their contract is silent, such as in this case, the rate now to be used is only 6% per annum. Kaya negotiable pa rin ito. Okay, even if the rate was not provided. The principal is 1,000 times the rate. What's the rate? It is 6% per annum. And how many months? Eh di kung 2 months, di 2 divided by 12. That will now be the time. Okay? Escalation clause versus de-escalation clause. Okay, bago tayo pumunta doon sa with by stated installments. Ito pala, pag-usapan lang muna natin yung escalation tsaka de-escalation clause. What is this escalation and de-escalation clause? Escalation clause is actually a stipulation entered into by the parties that in the event the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas will increase the legal rate of interest, the agreed rate of interest will also follow. So, paano yan? Halimbawa, the agreed rate of interest is 12% per annum, but later on, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the Monetary Board of the BSP, will now increase the legal rate of interest. Sanabi nila, oy, the legal rate of interest is no longer 6%. Gagawin na namin yung 20% per annum. Then, the agreed rate will also follow. So, from 6%, tataas ngayon yan ng 12%. Okay? Because of the de-escalation clause. How about de-escalation? De-escalation is actually the reverse of escalation clause. So if there is an increase, then the agreed rate will also be increased, right? In the escalation, if there is a reduction or a decrease in the legal rate of interest, then the agreed rate will also decrease. Okay? You have to remember that the presence of this escalation or the escalation clause in the instrument will not render or will not affect the negotiable character of our instrument. Okay? Wala yata akong illustration dito. Okay. Pero balikan lang natin to. Example na to, for example. Ito. I promise to pay Anton or order 1,000 pesos with interest. Signed COVID rate. Okay? So, dito walang rate of interest. Ang sabi natin, ang gagamitin mo na rate of interest kapag nag-compute ka would be 6% per annum because that's the legal rate of interest. We will now integrate here yung tinatawag natin na escalation or the escalation clause. How will I do that? Kung halimbawa dito, I promise to pay Anton or order 1,000 pesos with interest, gagawa ulit ako dito ng paragraph. Sabi ko, in the event that the BSP, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, will increase the legal rate of interest or decrease the legal rate of interest, the agreed rate will follow. Okay? So, I promise to pay Anton or order 1,000 pesos with interest. So, yung sinasabi natin, ang interest rate dapat niyan is 6%. Tama? Now, how about if there is now an additional phrase here? In the event, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas will increase or decrease the legal rate of interest, then the agreed rate will also follow. At the time that promissory note was entered into, the legal rate of interest was only 6%. But how about if at the time of payment, nag-increase yung Bangko Sentral ng legal rate? So from 6%, ginawa nila yan na 36% per annum. What will be the rate of interest to use then? Well, the rate of interest to use, because there is an escalation or a de-escalation clause that was incorporated in the promissory note, then the rate of interest to be used would now be 36%. Why? Kasi meron ng agreement. Pero kung walang agreement, still, the rate of interest would have been 6% per annum. So take note, ganun yung application ng tinatawag natin na escalation as well as the escalation clause. Kung naisama yan doon sa promissory note, then they have to observe the same. They have to obey it. Okay? Next situation, whereby the amount to be paid is now considered as sum certain in money. Okay, by stated installments. So ano yung andyan sa stated installments na yan? So in stated installments, you have to take note that the number of installments must be stated. The amount due for its installments must be stated. The maturity date of its installments must likewise be stated. Okay? So kung halimbawa, example lang so stated installments, the number of installments, the due date, the amount due for its installments should have been provided. Pero, tingnan natin itong mga illustrative cases. I promise to pay B or order 1,000 pesos in installments sa hindi. What do you think of that? Is that considered negotiable because it is by installments? Take note, ang sinasabi ng negotiable instruments law, so that it will not affect the negotiable character of the instruments, that it should be by stated installments. And when we say stated installments, dapat yung number of installments, the amount due for its installments, the maturity date of the installments should be provided. So if you will just indicate here, I promise to pay B or order 1,000 in installments, that would be considered as non-negotiable because the amount to be paid is not certain. It is not considered stated installments. Kaya hindi yan yung sinasabi ng batas na stated installments. By mere indicating in the instrument the word installments, that is not considered stated installments. Let's take, for example, the other one. I promise to pay B or order 1,000 pesos in 4 equal monthly installments beginning July 16, 2002. Is that already considered stated installments? Let's analyze. Sinabi ba kung ilang number of installments? Yes. Ilan? 4. Sinabi ba kung magkano ang babayaran per installment? Sabi niya dito, equal. So 4 equal. The 1,000 divided by 4, that would be 250 per month. Sinabi ba yung due date for its installment? Sabi niya dito, beginning July 16. So beginning July 16, that's the first 250. Next would be August 16, 250 na naman. September 16, another 250. October 16, that would be 250. So, sa palagay ninyo, is that considered stated installments? The answer would be yes. So, it is now considered a negotiable instrument, that being considered stated installments. I hope that's clear with you. Now, another example. I promise to pay B or order 1,000 pesos in installments as follows. Okay. So, June 20, 2002, 250. July 12, 2002, 750. Okay? So, this instrument is also considered a negotiable instrument. It's also a stated installment. Bakit? Sinabi ba kung ilan yung number of installments? Oo, dalawa. June 20, July 12. Sinabi ba yung due date? Oo, yan. June 20, July 12. Sinabi ba kung magkano per installment? Oo, sinabi. 250, 750. That's why that is also considered a stated installment. That is now considered a negotiable instrument. Okay? So I hope that is clear with you. Next. The third one would be by stated installments with acceleration clause. Okay? So, by stated installments with the stipulation that in case there is failure to pay at least one installment, the other installments will now become due and demandable. So, ano ba ang tinatawag nila na acceleration clause? Tingnan natin. An acceleration clause is actually a stipulation that upon default in the payment of any of the installment or instruments, interests, then the entire amount becomes due and demandable. Okay? So, halimbawa dito, sa example natin na to. I promise to pay B or order 1,000 installments as follows. June 20, July 12, 2002. 250, 750. So, ganon. On June 20, 2002, how much can you legally collect? You can only collect 250,000. Tama? Hindi siya nagbayad nung June 20, 2002. It's now June 21, 2002. How much can you now collect? Still, 250,000. Bakit? Because the rule is that you can only collect the amount that's due and demandable. Hindi siya nagbayad nung June 20. It's now July 12, 2002. How much can you now collect? Then by that time, you can now collect the entire amount of 1,000 pesos. You have to take note, however, that if there has been an acceleration clause, halimbawa, dyan sa baba niya, may nakadagdag dyan na acceleration clause. Ano yung acceleration clause? A stipulation that upon default in the payment of any of the installment or interest, the whole amount now shall become due. Yan. So ito yung tinatawag natin na acceleration clause, yung nakakulay red na to. So I promise to pay B or order 1,000 in 4 equal monthly installments beginning July 16, 2002. Tapos, meron kang phrase na ganito. Upon default in the payment of any installment, the whole sum payable under this note shall become due. This provision here, upon default in the payment, etc., etc., is now considered what we call as an acceleration clause. And what is its effect? Halimbawa, sabi niya dito, the 1,000 pesos shall be paid in 4 equal monthly installments starting July 16. So July 16, 250, August 16, 250, September 16, another 250, October 16, the last 250. July 16, hindi siya nagbayad. Magkano ang babayaran ko? Kung wala itong phrase na to, kung wala yan, yung kulay red na yan, then I can only collect 250. Comes August 16, hindi nagbayad nung July 16, magkano lang kang babayar? Ako kolektahin. 250, 250. So, 500 lang sana. September 16, di na naman nagbayad. Kung wala to wala tong phrase na to, 750 lang. October 16, hindi pa rin nagbayad. Then that's the time that I can now collect the entire 1,000 pesos. But, if this phrase is now present, if there is now an acceleration clause in our instrument, nakalagay na yan, yung kulay red na yan. Upon default, the payment of an installment, etc., he did not pay on July 16, 2002. So, July 16, 2002, magkano lang ang pwede kong kolektahin? 250. Because that's the only amount that's due and demandable. But, July 17, kinabukasan, hindi siya nagbayad kahapon, July 16. Kinabukasan, magkano na ang pwede kong kolektahin? Is it only 250? No more. I can now collect the entire amount of 1,000 pesos. Why? Because the acceleration clause now hastened the due date of the instrument. Pinabilis na niya yung maturity date ng instrument. Imbes na maghintay pa ako ng August 16, September 16, or October 16, as the case may be, there is no need for me to wait for that. Why? Because with the acceleration clause, it is as if the entire amount now becomes due and demandable. That's what we call as stated installments with acceleration clause. So, in this case, this instrument is considered negotiable. The amount to be paid is considered some certain in money. Okay? The last sentence, the last portion is an acceleration clause, and its effect is that it hastens the maturity date of the entire instrument. Third one, with exchange. What is exchange? Exchange refers to the difference in the value of currency from the value of money from one currency to another. Halimbawa, yung exchange rate na sinasabi natin, what's the difference between our Philippine peso if you convert it with the US currency? That's what we call as exchange. So even if there is an exchange in the instrument still considered a negotiable instrument. Let's take a look at this illustration. Pay to Lockdown May. Yan, ang pangalan niya, Lockdown May. Pay to Lockdown May. Nangyari siguro to nung time ng pandemic, nung naka-lockdown tayo. Kaya ang pangalan niya, Lockdown May. So, Pay to Lockdown May or order, 1,000 pesos with exchange at 1.2%. So, how is that? Is the amount to be paid really considered some certain in money? The answer is yes. Why? This 1,000 on the due date will be increased by additional 1.2%. So, ganun lang. I-multiply ko lang. 1,000 times 1.2, that would be 12 pesos. So, magkano ang babayaran ko? On the due date, it would be 1,012 pesos. That's it. Okay? Yan pala, mga pangalan nila, COVID Ray, tsaka Wuhan Drew. Okay? So, mga pangalan nyo sa mga anak nyo. Now, the last part of wait lang. Nawala yung sinishare ko. Okay, so the last part of section 2, paragraph E, whenever there has been a stipulation as to the payment of interests, attorney's fees, collection fees, okay, if the instrument will not be paid on maturity. I do not know if you will agree with me if I'll say that with the presence of such stipulation in the instrument, it appears that the amount to be paid is uncertain. But take note, even if the amount becomes uncertain, the uncertainty is after maturity. The amount to be paid before maturity, the amount to be paid on maturity is fixed. It is certain. It is definite. It does not matter if it becomes uncertain after maturity. Okay? So let's take a look at these illustrations para makita niyo yung sinasabi ko. I promise to pay Ben or order 1,000 in 4 equal monthly installments beginning July 16, 2002. Tapos may phrase, if not paid when due and issued thereon, I hereby agree to pay collection and attorney's fees thereof. Do you know how much is the additional amount to be paid after maturity? Kasi sinabi mo doon, if I will not be able to pay it on maturity, I will be required to pay the collection fees and attorney's fees. Period. How much is the collection fees? You do not know. How much is the attorney's fees? Do you know? You do not know. So, is the amount to be paid after the due date certain? It is uncertain. Kaya ito yung sinasabi ko. Na in this particular situation, the amount to be paid after the due date is really uncertain. But the instrument here is still considered negotiable. Bakit negotiable? Because the amount to be paid before maturity, the amount to be paid on maturity is considered certain. On maturity, do you know how much is to be paid? Well, July 16 to 50, August 16 to 50, September 16 to 50, October 16 to 50. It is fixed. Alam ko kung magkano. The uncertainty, just like what I've said, will happen only if there was failure on the part of the maker to pay it after maturity. So, before maturity, magkano yung total amount na babayaran? 1,000. On maturity, alam mo kung magkano babayaran per installment? 250, 250, 250, 250. But after the due date, alam mo pa rin ba kung magkano ang additional na babayaran? Hindi na. Kasi meron ng additional amount, kagaya ng collection fees, kagaya ng attorney's fees. But notwithstanding the same, this instrument is still considered negotiable. Why? Because this additional amount, the collection of attorney's fees, will happen only after the due date. So what is the lesson here, ladies and gentlemen? The lesson here is that as long as the amount to be paid is certain on maturity or before maturity, the instrument is considered a negotiable instrument. It does not matter if the amount to be paid becomes uncertain after the due date, because that is already after the due date, not before, not on the due date. Okay, so you take note of the reason provided here. Although such stipulation will not make the sum payable after maturity uncertain, it will not affect the certainty of the sum payable at maturity. Hence, it will not affect the negotiability in which it is stipulated. The uncertainty will happen after maturity. After maturity na kasi. Okay? So, going on further. Number 3, third requisite of negotiable instrument. The third requisite of negotiable instrument, it must be payable on demand or at a fixed or at a determinable future time. So, tatlo yung pinag-uusapan dito. The instrument must be payable on demand. That is covered by our Section 7. Payable at a determinable future time. That is our Section 4. And then the other one is payable at a fixed period of time. So, there is a fixed due date of the instrument. Okay? So, payable on demand, Section 7. Payable determined, Section 4. And then fixed period. Illustration. I promise to pay Sanon or order 1,000 pesos on or before July 16. Signed, Allen. What do you think is that? Is that negotiable or non-negotiable? I promise to pay Sanon or order 1,000 on or before July 16. Signed, Allen. Is it negotiable or non-negotiable? What do you think? The answer here is that it is. Oh, what's your guess? Negotiable or non-negotiable? What do you think? The answer starts with letter N and ends with letter E. So is it negotiable or non-negotiable? Answer is non-negotiable. Why non-negotiable? Because the due date is uncertain. Take note, July 16, yun lang ang sinabi niya. Was the year indicated? None. So, since the year is not indicated, then in that case, the due date is not considered to be certain. Non-negotiable yan. Okay? So, let's now consider what we call as payable on demand. Okay. So, wala yata illustration ito. Fixed period. Payable at a fixed period of time. Paano natin gagawin na fixed period yan? I promise to pay Sanon or order 1,000 on or before July 16. Maglalagay ako ngayon ng the year dyan. 2021. So, July 16, 2021. What will happen? Then we have already an instrument that is payable at a fixed period of time. And what's the due date? July 16 of 2021. Or pwede ko rin sabihin dyan, I promise to pay Sanon or order 1,000 pesos on 2020 Christmas Eve. Okay, so that's also considered a fixed period of time. And we all know what is 2020 Christmas Eve. That would be December 24, 2020. Fixed period of time. Okay? Next, payable on demand. When will you consider an instrument payable on demand? To have a clearer understanding of what we call as payable on demand, let's analyze and consider the provision of Section 7 of the Negotiable Instruments Law. Anong sinasabi niya dito? The instrument is considered payable on demand first when it's expressed. It's payable on demand at sight or presentation. Next one is when no time for payment is expressed. And then the third one would be where the instrument is issued, accepted, or endorsed when overdue. It is as regards the person issuing, accepting, or endorsing it as payable on demand. Okay? So, huwag ko muna i-explain itong third paragraph. I-explain ko muna itong una. When it is expressed to be payable on demand. Expressed to be payable on demand, ibig sabihin, in the instrument itself, it was clearly indicated that it is payable on demand. Or words of similar meaning. Okay? ASAP. Immediately. Okay? Kagaya ng ganon. Or at sight or presentation. But be careful when you are using the phrase at sight or presentation. Payable at sight. Payable on presentation. Because at sight or presentation should be correctly used only when it comes to a bill of exchange. Why is that? Because at sight or presentation refers to the time when a bill of exchange has been presented to the drawee for his acceptance. Okay? So in that case, expressed to be payable on demand, pwedeng promissory note, pwedeng bill of exchange. Pero at sight or presentation, proper lang yan sa mga bill of exchange. Ano naman itong isa? When no time for payments expressed, wala kang due date na inilagay. Okay? And then the third one is, when the instrument has been issued, accepted dapat yan. Accepted or endorsed when overdue. It is as regards the person issuing, accepting, or endorsing the instrument as payable on demand. How is that? Dito, yung instrument mo, at the time it was issued, for example, or at the time it was accepted, or at the time it was negotiated, it is already after the due date. After the due date. So if you have issued it before the due date, it is not payable on demand. If you have issued it after the due date, that's the time that is payable on demand. So like for example, you made a promissory note. I promise to pay Peter or order. Naglagay ako ng date. September 1, 2020. September 1, 2020. If I have issued that instrument with the due date September 1, 2020, I have issued that last July 31, 2020. Okay? I have issued it before maturity. That is not considered payable on demand. Rather, that is considered payable at a fixed period of time. Correct? However, if I have issued it only today, September 12, 2020. The due date of the instrument is supposed to be September 1, 2020. What will happen now to my instrument? The promissory note is considered payable on demand because at the time I have issued it, it's now considered, it is already mature. It has already become overdue. Pero, tingnan nyo to, yung last part niya. Sabi niya, yung last part niya na to. Yan, yung last part na yan. Sabi niya, it is as regards the person issuing, accepting, or endorsing it as payable on demand. So you imagine, I promise to pay Peter or order 1,000 pesos to be paid on September 1, 2020. To be paid on September 1, 2020. Signed the maker. Okay, halimbawa, si maker, he issued that to Peter, to the pay, on July 31, 2020. What kind of instrument is that? That is not payable on demand. That is payable at a fixed period of time. Why? Because the due date is September 1 and the instrument was issued on July 31, 2020, before the due date. So halimbawa, maker napunta na kay Peter, kay Pay. Si Peter naman, ang ginawa niya, he hold on to that instrument and it's only today, September 12, 2020, that Peter negotiated or endorsed the instrument to Charlie. Okay? So ngayon lang, September 12. What is the effect of that endorsement or negotiation made by Peter to Charlie only today? Remember, the due date of the instrument is September 1, 2020. Pero ngayon lang niya ni-negotiate. What is the effect of that? Insofar as Peter is concerned, insofar as the person who endorsed or negotiated that instrument is concerned, that is Peter, the instrument now is considered payable on demand. Why? Because the instrument was endorsed after the due date, in which case, insofar as the endorser, Peter, is concerned, the instrument is payable on demand. Sir, paano po si maker? Insofar as the maker is concerned, considering that he issued it before maturity, the instrument is still considered payable at a fixed period of time. Okay, so let's consider these illustrations here. When it's expressed to be payable on demand, okay, I promise to pay Peter or order on demand. Yan, no? Expressed, it's indicated, it's provided in the instrument, that's payable on demand. Pero sabi ko, words of similar meaning may be adopted. So it's not necessary that you will make use of the word on demand. Okay? So immediately, Pwede rin yun. That's also considered payable on demand. Or, when it's expressed to be payable at site, sabi nga natin, this is applicable to a bill of exchange. Yan, pay to Peter or order, 1 million at site. So, kailan babayaran si Peter? Kapag nakita na ni Drowy yung instrument. So, from the time Allen has seen the instrument, he is required to pay Peter the amount of 1 million. Or, payable upon presentation. So, presentation for payment. Again, pay to Peter or order, 1 million on presentment. So, kapag pinakita ni Peter kay Allen, obligado na si Allen na bayaran yung instrument. Kasi ang sinabi ni Darwin, Uy, Allen, bayaran mo si Peter pagkakita mo or pagpunta niya sa iyo. That's what we call as payable on presentation. It's also payable on demand. Okay? Now, what else? Other illustration? Pay to Senon or order, 1,000 pesos. May napansin ba kayo? Walang due date na inilagay. But in this case, this instrument is considered payable on demand. Why? Because no time for payment is expressed. So, pay to send on order 1,000, walang date na nakalagay dito na maturity date. Then, in that situation, that instrument is considered payable on demand. Pero do not confuse the maturity date with the date of the instrument. Halimbawa, naglagay si Ben dito ng date, yung maker. September 12, 2020, pay to Senon or order 1,000 pesos, sign Ben to Allen. Yung nilagay niya dyan na date na September 12, 2020, that is not the due date of the instrument. That is the date of the instrument. So even if the instrument is dated, okay lang yon. It's still considered payable on demand if there is no due date. So pay to Senon or order 1,000, walang date ng maturity, walang date kung kailan babayaran. That's considered payable on demand. Okay? Because no time for payment is expressed. That's it. Illustration number 2. Blank. After date. I promise to pay Senon or bearer, 1,000. Signed Allen. Blank after date. Dito, ilalagay ko sana 5 days after date, 10 days after date. I promise to pay. Pero wala nakalimutan ko. Hindi ako naglagay purposely ng date or araw. Then in that case, what is the nature of this instrument? Blank date after date. I promise to pay Senon or bearer. That's considered also as payable on demand. Okay? So where the blank for time for payment is unfilled, it is still considered to be payable on demand because it is as if no time for payment is expressed. No time for payment is expressed. Okay? Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, nung panghuli kong in-explain kanina. When the instrument has been issued, accepted, or endorsed after maturity or after the instrument is overdue. So illustration for the first one. So our instrument is as follows. Pay to Pinky or order 1,000 on December 31, 2019 to Leon, signed Tintin. Okay. So the due date of our instrument is December 31, 2019. December 31, 2019. Yan ang due date po niya. Now, how about if it was issued by Tintin? Ito, si drawer natin. She issued it on January 2, 2020. What is the effect of the issuance made by Tintin on January 2, 2020? Remember, the due date of the instrument is December 31, 2019. Pero in-issue niya lang on January 2, 2020. Then in that case, this bill of exchange is now considered payable on demand. Why? Because it was issued after maturity. Okay, maliwanag. Ngayon, second situation, when it was accepted after overdue. So, what is the due date? Okay, Tintin issued it on December 25. So, nauna yung issuance bago yung due date. However, Leon accepts it only on January 2, 2020. The due date of the instrument is December 31, 2019. The instrument was issued on December 25, 2019. So, fixed period kasi nauna yung issuance bago yung due date na December 31. However, for one reason or another, the drawee acceptor made the acceptance only on January 2, 2020, 2 days after the supposed due date. Due date is December 31, but the actual acceptance happened only on January 2, 2020. So ano yung effect ngayon nun? Insofar as Leon is concerned, si Leon lang insofar as Leon is concerned, this instrument now is payable on demand. Why on demand? Because he accepted it after maturity. Sir, halimbawa po si Tintin, ano naman sa kanya? Well, insofar as Tintin is concerned, considering that she issued it before the due date, December 25, 2019, the instrument is considered payable at a fixed period of time, okay, which is December 31, 2019. Third situation, when the instrument has been endorsed when overdue, so Tintin again issued this instrument on December 25, 2019. Okay, so before fixed period pa rin kasi it has been issued before the due date. However, Pinky, yon si Pei, made the endorsement to Charlie, third person, on January 2, 2020. At the time Pinky made the endorsement, the instrument is already mature. Bakit? The due date is December 31. And when did Pinky made the endorsement? When did she make the endorsement? She made the endorsement on January 2, 2020. So nauna yung maturity ng instrument kasi ang maturity niya is December 31 with the endorsement made by Pinky. Pinky having made the endorsement only on January 2, 2020. Okay? So, next one, determinable future time, where the instrument is payable at a determinable future time. Ang tanong, when will you consider an instrument payable at a determinable future time? Section 4, anong sabi niya doon? An instrument is payable at a determinable future time when it is expressed to be payable at a fixed period after date or after sight. Next, on or before a fixed or determinable future time specified therein, on or a fixed period after the occurrence of an event which is certain to happen at the time of happening be uncertain. And then I want you to take note of the last paragraph. An instrument payable upon a contingency is non-negotiable in the happening of the event does not cure the defect. Okay, so the first one, payable at a fixed period after date or sight. Di ba yung mga examples natin kanina? Pay to Pinky or order 1,000 pesos on December 31, 2019. That's a fixed period. Tama? Pero ito, after date or after sight. Hmm? So, halimbawa sinabi mo, 5 days after date, 5 days after sight. They pay to X or order, etc. Then, that's now what we call now as determinable future time. Ano yung fixed period na sinabi doon? Tingnan natin, illustration. To. Fixed period, after date. Ano yung fixed period dito na sinabi? Ito yon, 30 days after date. Yung phrase pala na fixed period after date shall be correctly applied to both promissory note and a bill of exchange. Okay? So, after date. Nasaan yung date dito sa promissory note? Siguro, nasanay tayo na tumitingin ng promissory note na ganito lang, di ba? I promise to pay Peter or order 1 million, signed Mike. That is our promissory note. Hindi tayo madalas nakakakita ng date. January 20, 2020. So, dito, ang ginawa ni Mike is, sabi niya, 30 days after date, I will pay Peter 1 million. Okay? So, 30 days after date. Saan ko sisimulang bilangin yung 30 days na to? I will reckon the 30 days from the date of my instrument. And the date of my instrument is January 20. So, when will now be the due date of this instrument? Remember, in computing your period, exclude the first day, include the last day. So, when will be the due date of that instrument? 31 days po ang January, ha? So, 31 ang January, 11 na kaagad yun. Tapos, may natira pa na 29. So, January 20, 2020 is divisible by 4. There are supposed to be 29 days. So, ang due date natin is February 29. Okay? So, that's it. Fixed period after date. Due date would be 30 days from January. Okay? So, January 2020. That will be February 29. Okay? So, fixed period after sight. Yung fixed period after sight naman is applicable to both it's applicable only to a bill of exchange. Because only a bill of exchange is required to be presented for acceptance or for payment. Okay? Presented for acceptance. Okay? Presented for acceptance. So, example naman natin, ito pa rin. January 20, 2020, 60 days after sight, pay to the order of Mike the sum of 1,000 pesos. Signed A to Pinky. Okay. When will be the due date of the instrument? 60 days from the time Pinky has seen the instrument. So kung halimbawa, ngayon ko ipinakita yung instrument kay Pinky, the 60-day period shall be counted from today, September 12, 2020. It's not January 20 because the language used in this bill of exchange is 60 days after sight, not 60 days after date, just like in the first one. Okay? So the due date, sabi niya dito, is 60 days from the time Pinky, the drawee, has seen the instrument. So if she was able to see it only today, then the 60-day period shall commence today. Bago ko itutuloy ito, how about if the case is like this? Dito, balikan natin to. January 2020, 30 days after date, I promise to pay Peter or order 1 million, signed Mike. How about if Mike here purposely did not place January 2020. Hindi siya naglagay ng date ng instrument. So 30 days after date, sabi ni Mike, I promise to pay Peter or order 1 million, but the instrument is undated. There is no date of that instrument. Is it still possible to make or to fix the due date of the instrument? If there is no January 2020 appearing here, wala yan. January 2020 na yan. Tanggalin mo yan. Halimbawa. So, blank yan. If there is no January 2020 indicated in that instrument, is our instrument still negotiable? Can you still fix the due date of the instrument? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Under Section 6, omissions, first paragraph, sabi niya, the negotiable character of the instrument is not affected by the fact that, letter A, it is not dated. So even if there is no date in that instrument, the instrument, that promissory note, is still considered a negotiable instrument. So negotiable, walang question dyan. But if it is negotiable, when will then be the due date? So how will I fix it? How will I be able to fix that? In relation to Section 13, the holder of the instrument has the prima facie authority to fix the due date of the instrument when it is payable at a fixed period after date, but the instrument is undated. Section 13 yun. So, in our example, instrument is payable at a fixed period after date, and then there is no date, wala yan, na-erase yung January 2020 na yan, then the holder, the possessor of the instrument, has the rebuttable authority, the disputable authority, or the prima facie authority to insert the correct date. Because if he will be able to insert the correct date, then it is now possible to compute the due date, which is 30 days after date. Tama? Okay, so ano yung ginamit natin na justification doon? Section 6, first paragraph, date is not necessary to fix the negotiable character of the instrument. Next, Section 13. Kung saan sinabi niya that whoever is holding the instrument has the authority, the disputable authority to fix to insert the true date of the instrument. Take note, you have to insert the true date. Why is that? Because insertion of the wrong date avoids the instrument except in the hands of a holder in due course. Okay? So insertion of the wrong date. Kaya tandaan mo, you have to insert the correct date, the true date of the instrument. So ang tanong, what will be the true date that I will indicate? Ano ba ang isusulat ko po dyan? Well, the date that you will indicate there would be your third paragraph of Section 17. Tingnan ninyo. Anong nakasulat doon? The instrument is presumed to be dated on the date it was issued. So if it was issued today, September 12, then the date that I should indicate there, if I am the holder, is September 12, 2020. Because the instrument is presumed to be dated on the date it was issued. So the date of the issuance is in itself the date of the instrument. I hope that's clear with you. So even if there is no date of the instrument indicated here, this instrument, 30 days after date, remains a negotiable instrument because date is not necessary to fix its maturity. to make it negotiable. And how will I fix the due date? Under Section 13, whoever is in actual physical possession of the instrument has the disputable authority to place the correct date. And what's the correct date? Under Section 17, Paragraph 3, the correct date is the date of the issuance. Next, fixed period after sight. So January 20, 2020, 60 days after sight, pay to the order of Mike the sum of 1,000 to Pinky sign Alexis. Yan, sinabi natin kanina. Sinabi natin na yung 60 days shall be counted from the time Pinky has actually seen the instrument. Tama? So, paano bang gagawin dapat ni Pinky dyan? She should write the word accepted across the face of the instrument. Okay. Ngayon, how about if this what happened? 60 days after sight, sabi niya, pay to the order of Mike the sum of 1,000 pesos to Pinky sign Alexis. This is what happened. Today, September 12, 2020, Mike went to Pinky to present the instrument for acceptance or for payment, as the case may be. However, ano ang sinabi ni Pinky? Mike, iwanan mo na lang yung bill of exchange mo doon sa table ko sa office natin. I will attend to it when I have the time. However, you can return after 5 days. Yun ang sinabi niya. Balikan mo na lang after 5 days. So after 5 days from today, September 12, that would be September 5th, 17. Mike returned to Pinky's office and he found out that the instrument was already accepted by Pinky. Remember, yung facts natin, yung kwento natin. Sinabi ni Pinky kay Mike, Mike, iwanan mo lang yan doon sa table ko sa office natin. Ako nang bahala doon. Okay? Balikan mo after 5 days. After 5 days, September 17, Mike indeed returned and he discovered that the instrument was already accepted. Ano ang ginawa ni Pinky? She just wrote the word accepted across the face of the instrument, followed by her signature, signed, Pinky. Lo and behold, no date of acceptance. If there is no date of acceptance provided, would it still be possible for you to fix the due date of the instrument? Remember, sabi niya, 60 days after sight. You do not know when was it actually seen by Pinky. Di mo alam. Kasi sabi niya, iwanan mo doon, September 12, balikan mo on the 17th, 5 days from today. So you do not know if she has seen it or she accepted it today or 13 or 14, 15, 16, 17. You do not know. So how will you now fix the due date of the instrument here? Is our instrument still considered negotiable? The answer is yes. Again, Section 6, Paragraph A. Date is not necessary. Date may be omitted. And then, if date is not necessary, how will I fix the due date? So the instrument is negotiable, but how will I fix its maturity date? Section 13 na naman. When date may be inserted. Where under Section 13, sinabi rin doon, holder of an instrument payable at a fixed period after sight and the acceptance is not dated. 60 days, fixed period after sight, such as in this case. Fixed period is 60 days after sight, and it was accepted by Pinky without any date of acceptance. So sabi doon sa Section 13, if a bill of exchange payable at a fixed period after sight has been accepted without any date of acceptance indicated, the holder again has the prima facie authority to insert the true date. But remember, yung warning ko kanina, you have to insert the true date. Otherwise, the instrument becomes a void instrument except in the hands of a holder in due course. So the question now here is, if I am the holder, what will be the correct date of acceptance that I will indicate? Remember, I was not around when it was accepted. So I do not know whether she accepted it today, September 12, or tomorrow, 13, or on the 14th, or 15th, or 16th, or on the last day, which is September 17. I do not know. So what date now will I indicate? Ano kaya ang gagamitin ko? Oh, so anong date ang gagamitin ko? Well, remember, I have to indicate the correct date. And how will I know the correct date? I was not around at the time. You should now be guided by the provision found in Section 136 of the Negotiable Instruments Law. Ano ang sinasabi doon sa Section 136 of the Negotiable Instruments Law? Sinasabi doon that the drawee has at least 24 hours to decide whether to accept or to reject the instrument. And if the instrument is accepted, the acceptance shall be dated on the date of the presentation. So kahit hindi mo alam kung kailan niya talaga tinanggap. So even if you are not aware whether acceptance was made on the 13, 14, 15, or 17 as the case may be, there is only one correct date that you will indicate there. And what's that? The date of the presentation. And when did you present the instrument for acceptance? It is today, which is September 12. So there is no error on your part if you will place the date as the date of acceptance is September 12, 2020. That is found under 136 of the Negotiable Instruments Law. Okay? And then the last one, on or before a fixed or determinable future time is specified therein. This is still covered by your paragraph 3. Paragraph 3? Paragraph 4. Section 4, I should say. On or before a fixed or determinable future time. Madali lang yan. Maglagay ka lang dyan ng phrase na ito. On or before a fixed period of time. So, on or before a fixed period of time, January 2, 2003. So, on or before January 2, 2003, I promise to pay sa iyo or order 1,000 pesos, sign Alex. That's considered payable at a determinable future time because it is payable on January 2, 2003. That is your last date to pay. Or it could be any day before January 2, 2003. So, pwede December 31, pwede January 1. As long as you will not go beyond January 2, 2003, that is what we call as determinable future time. Okay, so the due date is on January 2 or any day before January 2, 2003. I hope that is clear with you. How about this other situation? On the occurrence of an event which is certain to happen, though the time of happening be uncertain. So, familiar naman siguro kayo dun sa phrase na event which is certain to happen although the time of happening be uncertain. Okay? Di ba familiar kayo doon? That's what we call as period. Occurrence of an event which is certain to happen though the time of happening is uncertain. Sabi nga nila, in this life, there are two things that are inevitable. One is death and the other one is tax. Pero sabi ng mga ibang accountants, in this life, there are two things that are too difficult to understand. First is taxation, and the other one is women. Ewan ko kung bakit. Ganun ba mga babae? Mahirap daw kayong maintindihan? Okay, patalastas lang po yun. Balikan po natin ito. So, on the occurrence of a specified event which is certain to happen. So, on the death of Zenon, I promise to pay Ben or order the sum of 1,000. Signed, Alan. On the death of Zenon. Yun ang due date ko. That is considered determinable future time. Sir, di ko naman alam kung kailan siya mamamatay. Di hintayin mo kung kailan siya matitigok. Di ba? That's the due date. Sigurado ka naman na mamamatay siya eh. Sooner or later, that person will die. You just don't know when. Death is inevitable. That is certain to happen. You just don't know when it will actually occur. Okay? Next. After the occurrence of a specified event, which is certain to happen. Yung kanina, on the occurrence of a specified event. So, on the occurrence. So, on the death. Yan, on the death. Itong second situation, after the occurrence of a specified event. So, pwedeng 10 days after the death of Zenon, I promise to pay Ben or order the sum of 1,000 pesos. Signed, Ami. 10 days after the death. So, hintayin ko lang, mamatay si Zenon. Pagkatapos ng death niya, magbilang ako ng 10 days. and that will now be the due date of my instrument. Kasi sabi ko dito, 10 days after the death. But how about if, instead of after, ginamit ko is before. 10 days before the death of Zenon. I promise to pay Ben or order the sum of 1,000. Signed, Ami. It's not after. It's before. Ano ka? Nostradamus. Alam mo kung kailan siya mamamatay? Sa palagay nyo. Negotiable ba yung instrument na ito? 10 days before the death of Zenon, I promise to pay Ben or order the sum of 1,000. Signed, Ami. The answer is, it is non-negotiable. Why? Because that is not a determinable future time. Siguro siya, mag-argue ka sa akin. Sir, alimbawa po, hired killer ako. Papatayin ko na lang si Zenon so that I know 10 days before his death. Still, that is not considered a negotiable instrument because that is not considered determinable future time. Kahit pa hired killer ka, hindi naman lahat ng hired killer tumatama yung araw kung kailan sila makakapatay. Tama? Diba? May mga iba nga nakakasurvive sa ambush, nakakasurvive doon sa attempt in their life. So that is not yet certain to happen. Okay? Reason, the date of payment is uncertain. Why uncertain? Kasi nga yung 10 days before the death is considered not fixed. It's considered uncertain. Okay. How about if ito yung last paragraph ng section 4. But an instrument payable upon a contingency is non-negotiable and the happening of the event will not cure the defect. What is a contingency? Contingency means a condition, an event which may or may not happen. Future and uncertain event. Di ba yung sinasabi nyo sa obligations and contract nyo? Okay, so tandaan, when an instrument is payable upon a condition that is non-negotiable, and even if that condition will actually happen, the happening of the condition will not cure the defect. The instrument remains to be a non-negotiable instrument. So let's take a look at these illustrations. I promise to pay to Zenon or bearer 1,000 pesos 10 days after B passes the CPA board. Passing the CPA board is a condition. It may or may not happen. I know all of you who are listening right now will become accountants, but you will not become accountants together or at the same time. Some of you will become accountants after the first take. Some after the second take or the third take, as the case may be. But I know that all of you will become accountants. So dito, yung passing the CPA board is actually a condition. It may or may not happen. So dito, I promise to pay Zenon or bearer 1,000 10 days after B passes the CPA board is a contingency. This is a non-negotiable instrument. But how about if B passed the CPA board? And he did not only pass the CPA board, he even topped the CPA board. Is it already negotiable? Kasi tingnan nyo dito. I promise to pay Zenon or bearer 1,000 10 days after B passes the CPA board. Ang sagot na negotiable because it's not payable at determinable future time. But how about if B passed the CPA board for 2020 or wala pala 2020, 2021 CPA board. Nag-top pa nga siya Top ang Louisian, top ang taga-SLU. Yan. So in that situation, still, the instrument is non-negotiable. Okay. Reason, because it is still payable upon a condition and the happening of the condition will not cure the defect. So even if Zenon will actually pass the CPA board, the contingency, the instrument is still subject to a condition, to a contingency. Hence, the instrument is non-negotiable. So although 10 days after is certain, passing the board, okay, the CPA board is a contingency. Okay? So yung 10 days after, okay po yan. 10 days after. Other examples of contingency, contracting of marriage, election of candidate, graduation of student, etc. Okay. Halimbawa to, balikan ko lang isa, dagdagan ko lang yung example natin. Ito. 10 days after the death of Zenon, sabi natin, I promise to pay Ben or order the sum of 1,000. Sabi natin, negotiable. Because fixed period after the occurrence of an event which is certain to happen. Tama? So, determinable future time. Pero halimbawa, ganitong sinabi ko, 10 days after the death of Zenon because of COVID-19, I promise to pay Ben or order the sum of 1,000. Signed, Ami. 10 days after the death. That is determinable future time. Pero anong sinabi ko? After the death of Zenon due to COVID-19, I have specifically provided the would-be cause of his death. Is that still negotiable? The answer is no more. Even if death is certain, that is certain to happen, it will really happen. But the cause of death will not necessarily be COVID-19. By indicating the expected cause of death of Zenon, the instrument now becomes a non-negotiable instrument. Naintindihan niyo ba ako? So after the death of Zenon, okay yan. After the death of Zenon, due to COVID-19, mali po yan. Non-negotiable yan. Next one. Yung fixed period of time, payable upon a fixed period. Okay? Yung sinabi ko kanina, there is a specified due date. Illustration, I promise to pay Amir order 1 million on January 21, 2021. Okay, so that's a fixed period. Or, I promise to pay Amir order 1 million on 2020 Christmas. That will be December 24, 2025. Or December 25, 2020. Okay? So, tapos na po tayo. Next na po ulit natin to. Payable to order or to bearer. Salamat po sa pakikinig. Magta-third video po tayo later on. Thank you.